Welcome to the Michigan Golfer Show. Join us each week as we explore the people, the places, and the events that shape our great game.
Hi, I'm Jenny McCafferty for the Michigan Golfer. And today we have a real treat. With us is Chris Wilczinski, a golf course architect. And we're just delighted to be speaking with him. How are you doing, Chris?
Thank you so much.
And we first learned about you when we were talking with Art Hills and Steve Forrest, and you were part of that firm when times were booming in golf. Tell us a little bit about Art Hills.
Yeah, thank you. My time, I guess, with Art Hills started in 1987. I was a senior in high school, so I was 17 years old, and my father was a golf course superintendent. Then he sold pump stations for irrigation systems, so he had a relationship with Art and Steve and would call in their office for work and referrals and things like that. Anyways, my dad got me a job there when I was 17 years old, like I said, in high school. And I had this opportunity to do a co-op where I went to high school in the morning and then worked at his office in the afternoon. My intent was to study architecture or something related to architecture. I didn't know anything at that time about golf course architecture or landscape architecture, what I eventually studied. But anyways, I worked at his office all through my senior year of high school, worked in the afternoons there. When I started there, I did pretty much anything that you could do. I took the trash out, burned the trash, got oil changes for Art's car washes, did some drafting, did a lot of just general office miscellaneous types of things. And then slowly they introduced me to the architecture part and how we go about that. And then all through college, I worked at Art's office while I was studying. And then when I graduated from college, at that time, he was not hiring, so I worked for a golf course architect named Don Childs up in Michigan. I worked for Don for about 3 years, and then in 1997 went back to work for Art. When I went back in 97, I was just a draftsman, essentially. I did a lot of CAD work and then became a project manager and then eventually became a partner. The last few years I was at the firm, I was the managing partner of the firm, so I really got to see the whole business from ground level all the way up to managing jobs and then actually running the company and being responsible for all those people. So it was a great ride.
When you say managing partner, that's basically you're managing the business side of it. Yeah. So that's a good background to have.
Yeah, it was fun. It was probably the greatest thing about that was just learning the business side of the business. The architecture side is the fun side. It's like what we're probably all best at, and some of us aren't great at the business side. But Art, and that's truly what I think. Art was a great architect, but I think he was probably a better businessman. And he taught me a lot about business and just how to run the jobs, how to have good relationships with the contractors and the people and the clients, and how to make money and how to be a good firm, I guess.
There's a lot of communication involved there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had weekly team meetings with the whole group, and I was in charge of everybody in the firm and managing all that. Unfortunately, though, it was at a time when the economy was getting bad, so there was a lot of hard decisions to be made with regard to staff and people and jobs and how we were going to manage all that. And so it was fun, but it was also a difficult time because things were starting to wind down and times we literally went from 2005, 2007 to being as busy as you could possibly be, to 2008, 2009, 2010 to shedding 3/4 of the staff and just having little to no work at that time.
That was tough. The whole golf business in Michigan just went south.
Yeah, it did. And we were at that time, like, there was firms that were starting to pursue international work, but we had enough work in the United States that we didn't do that, so we fell behind in those opportunities. And then we really hadn't done a lot of renovation work at that time because there was so many new golf courses being built, so we weren't really pursuing that work. Now that's most of the work, but so yeah, it was a difficult transition for the firm because we were just so dependent on these big projects, and a lot of them were residential golf community projects, and that's what really took a hit like right away, is because the housing market crashed and there was no need for homes, and so yeah, it was a difficult transition.
Well, while you were there, what were some of the big projects that you did work on?
Yeah, the very first project that I worked on with Art was Red Hawk Golf Club up in East Tawas, Michigan. I think
that's a cool course.
Yeah, it is. I think that when I went up there, I was 28 years old. I think 29 maybe. I had just started working for the firm. like I said, I went back in '97. Tom Doak was the original architect at Red Hawk, and he had a falling out with the owner at that time, Dan Alexander. He was the original developer. And so he interviewed architects. He interviewed Reese Jones, I think, Robert Trent Jones Jr., and then us. And Art, for whatever reason, couldn't go up there, so they sent me up there. And I literally had been working for the firm for a year, didn't know much about what I was really doing, went up there. But prior to going up there, there was a routing issue that Dan Alexander, the client, had, that something that he didn't like or wasn't comfortable with. And I had sketched out a solution, or what I thought was a solution, went up there, met with him, and he loved it. And personality-wise, we got along well, and he ended up hiring the firm. And a funny story, though, I remember the very first trip up there, this was when we would charter a lot of flights for small regional jobs, or not small jobs, but regional jobs, anything that was like 5 hours or less. So, and this is my first time with Art, like going to a project, and we were hired. We'd started working on the design. I was working on the budget for the job, and I remember reviewing that with Art on the way up there, and we were just taking off from Toledo, and I'm reviewing it with him, and I was like, the budget is $1.3 million. And I remember he was like, there is no way that we're ever going to be able to do this job for that. I think he almost told the pilot to turn around and go back because it just in his mind would never work. But we ended up building the golf course for that. The benefit of that, or how we were able to do that, is it was a pure sand site. We were able to use the sand for all the green construction. We had little to no drainage because it was all sand. It was a beautiful piece of property, rolling. We didn't need to move a lot of soil. So we were able to build a very economic, I guess, sustainable golf course because of that. But it was a funny evolution of the whole thing, and me starting to get to know Art and his, just how, things that he did and didn't do. And lots of good laughs over the years about artisms, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Art's the boss, right? So those are some interesting times, but you also worked on some very specific courses, and I believe that's when you applied to be a member of the American Society of Golf Course Architects, which has pretty stringent requirements. Right. What were the 5 courses you submitted to be?
Yeah, the 5 courses. I think at that time I was one of the younger members ever. I was in my early 30s, and a lot of the ASGCA members, it takes them a long time to get the 5 golf courses. I think the average age of an ASGCA member is probably 50 years old, and at that time I was in my early 30s. The beauty of it, I was working for a firm that, a lot of people called us like a golf course design factory because we had so many projects that were happening at one time. But the projects that I had that were representative was Red Hawk in East Tawas. I did 2 golf courses in California. One was Black Gold Golf Club, which was in Yorba Linda, California. And then the other one was Cross Creek Golf Club, which was in Temecula, California. The 4th that I submitted was it was Eagle Bend Golf Club, which was in Aurora, Colorado, outside of Denver. That was a housing community golf course. And the 5th, I think, it was Heritage Ranch Golf Club, which was outside of Dallas.
Wow.
So
all over the country.
Yeah, I think 4 of the 5 were residential community golf courses. But yeah, when I worked for Art, my primary geographic area was the West Coast. Most of my work was California, Colorado, Texas, Arizona, Western United States.
So you got a lot of frequent flyer miles?
Yeah, I think one year I flew 110,000 miles. That was the highest level you could get to as far as perks and platinum and all that. So
you're platinum.
Yeah, then I was. Now I don't do that much now. But yeah, it was. I think literally every vacation that you went on during that period was more or less free because you had so many frequent flyer miles, you had so many car points, you had so many hotel points that was the one benefit. The downside is that it's hard on a family. You're gone a lot and you're not around a lot. But yeah, it was a great time because we were so busy and it was easy at that time to fulfill my 5 courses. So to become a ASGCA member, an associate member, you have to have 5 representative courses. And then to become a full member, you have to have 3 more after that. I don't recall which 3 there were after that, but it happened very shortly after that. So again, back to the ASGCA, there's several guys that become associate members that never become full members because they can't get those next 3. They've changed the guidelines a little bit to allow 9-hole courses, allow renovations, because of the change in our golf climate, there was fewer new courses, so they wanted to encourage people to still be members. so they've changed the structure a little bit.
Do associate members get to wear the red plaid jackets?
Yeah, they do. Yep. Yeah, the jacket is and then the patch or the badge is what comes once you become a full member.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a way to tell.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, right. Yeah, but the jacket's great. I don't wear it that often for our meetings. I've worn it at Christmas time before though, because it's a great Christmas jacket.
Oh, it's perfect for Christmas. Yeah.
Definitely stands out, and you always get a lot of comments and questions about what is that. And the cool thing about it though is that historically it's the Ross tartan. It's the Donald Ross family tartan.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
The Scottish families had different tartans to represent their family, and that was Donald Ross's family's tartan. He was one of the founding members of the ASGCA. So
one of the really cool things about being with Art Hills in the boom days is at one point you and all the other members of the firm, a whole bunch of you, went to Scotland to play golf.
Right.
What was that like?
Yeah, that was a really fun time or fun experience. We had a sales goal at the beginning of the year that if we met a certain goal, I guess, that the reward is that we all got to go to Scotland. We met that reward or met that sales goal, and then the following year we all went to Scotland. I think there was 13 of us that went. Essentially every design associate partner, I think a couple of our marketing people went as well. But it was an awesome trip because we got to play a lot of awesome golf courses. We played with caddies. Steve Forrest, I think, was the one that kind of handled all the logistics and setting everything up. I think maybe we played 10 courses. We had a big coach van that we all rode in, and so every time that we'd finish, we were able to be all together in this van and talk about the architecture and talk about what we saw, and then have the kind of the night time to talk about it as well. But it was a awesome experience. Yeah. But we had an awesome time on that trip, and we had done after the Scotland trip, we had done golf trips throughout the Midwest too, where our whole group would go and play, and that was the cool part about being in an office like that and having a group of people and being able to talk about architecture. The downside of now being on my own is that I don't have that. It's just me, my wife, and my dog, and some other people that I talk to once in a while about architecture. But I miss that office experience and the collaboration that came with that.
How did that trip to Scotland influence the way you design courses?
Yeah, good question. I had actually been to Scotland one time prior to that to going, so I've been twice, and I haven't played every course like the classics there, but I've played most of them. I guess first and foremost, it's a different experience than what you see in the United States as far as golf. Part of it is the soil. It's firm, it's dry, so the ball. The one thing you have to get used to is that how much the ball rolls and runs. If you're playing with a caddy, they'll purposely make you land it well short to bounce it onto the green. You get a ton of roll and a ton of which you don't really get here. You get that on some golf courses, but not all the golf courses. The other part was just the randomness of everything over there, the randomness of where bunkers were placed, which I think is really neat because I think it keeps everybody on their toes, all golfers. Some traditional American golf courses have bunkers just right at the landing area and right at the green. Whereas the Scottish courses, especially if you study St. Andrews, there's bunkers everywhere.
So fairway bunkers and...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the cool thing about that is that if you have random bunkers placed at different locations, you are truly testing everybody, because a scratch golfer is going to be hitting it to one spot, influenced by some bunkers. A 20 handicap may be influenced by other bunkers. The 20 handicap that may not get to the green regulation has other things to think about on their second shot, where they may lay up and have try to create the best angle. So I think that was really cool about the Scottish courses, with just the randomness of the bunkers and knowing that those bunkers kind of evolved. They weren't really built; they more or less have evolved. They had design influence, but the fact that a lot of the landforms and what you see is what's always been there, and it's evolved over time with the wind-blown sand dunes and where the bunkers were and how they've evolved. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there was certainly architects that had influence on those golf courses, but you're talking several hundred years of evolution and change, and it's pretty neat to see. And then most of those golf courses are near the sea. I think there was a couple that we may have played inland. No, so the wind is always a factor. So that's another part about the game is that you playing over there is you have to factor in the wind, and you may have to hit different types of shots. You know, it could be a high shot, it could be a low shot. You may play a shot if the wind's blowing 30 miles an hour left to right. You may have to hit it, 50 feet to the left of the green and let it come back in with the wind, which I think is pretty cool because when I play golf like that, I'm a visual person, so I can become more creative with the shots and think about it more. Versus if you're just playing an American course where there's no wind and it's not firm. To me, it's different, I guess, as far as the mindset and how you play that golf course.
Well, so you can really play the same course over and over and over again, and it'll be a completely different experience depending on the direction of the wind and strength.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Ooh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, it is. It's a great experience. I want to go to Ireland too and play golf there, and I've also been to England. I played some of the Parkland courses as well as some of the Seaside Links courses there, and so I think it's there's by no means do I have the breadth of courses seen like what Tom Doak has seen. There's architects that have studied and traveled all around the world. I have not seen that amount of golf courses, but I have seen a lot, and they certainly help influence your ideas and your thoughts. And and the bottom line is that there are no rules really. Like, if you study golf course architecture enough, there's no rules. I mean, there's par that is kind of the accepted norm of 72 and par 4s and 3s and 5s, but beyond that, there are really no rules. So
yeah, I think one of the people on that Scotland trip was Michael Patrick Shields, and he has put together a book called Secrets of the Great Golf Course Architects, and you're one of them. Do you remember playing with him on that trip?
I do remember playing with him, yeah, and he was a great guy. I mean, easy to talk to and fun to be around, and he was with us on that trip. I think the original idea of him coming is we were going to do this big feature article in the golf magazines that highlighted Art Hill's office going to Scotland and playing all these great golf courses. That never came to fruition. I can't remember why, but yeah, Michael's a great guy and talented writer, and I think he's still involved with golf in Michigan. And
yeah, he has a radio show, I believe. Yeah. He's busy and prolific. Yeah. Well, Chris, it's been fun talking with you about Arthur Hill, Steve Forrest, and your start in golf, and thanks for talking with us.